Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the channel. My name is Tony. This is the 15-Minute Gamer channel, and today we're doing something a little bit different. Now, something I've not really done on the channel too much lately is sim racing. I bought a sim rig, I've got a steering wheel and all that sort of stuff. At the beginning of this, I was like, I really want to get into sim racing. Now, when you're thinking about getting into sim racing, there are a lot of options to what game you might want to try to get into sim racing. So what I've done today is picked 10 of them, and we're going to go through and kind of rank them from 10 to 1 being the best. Now, bearing in mind, this is my kind of opinion. I've played them all again just to see which ones I enjoyed the most, which ones have went far in development. I've owned all these games for ages and ages and ages, but I would just play with like a controller occasionally, or just kind of just bought them and just left them there. So the things I'm kind of looking for, considering we're looking at a beginner's basic level, is how easy is the game to get into, the user experience, the AI/online, so do you want to play with friends? Is that good? Or if you want to play with just the AI, is that decent enough? Is it fun? Is it fun and easy to pick up? Can you pick up a controller? Can you pick up and plug your steering wheel in and have some fun on it? What modes does it bring to the table? There's a lot to do. The cost isn't a massive sort of, kind of constraint here, but I will be bringing cost into it. So that bang for your buck. You pick up this game. How much of all that can you get from this game? Physics and sound is kind of important, and I will mention them. But as this is a beginner's guide, physics and sound isn't up there with what I'm looking at. It's everything as a package for that first time new player. Like I was, picking them all back up, playing them, seeing what they brought to the table. So anyway, guys, before we get into it, just remember to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. Share this video if you think anyone might find it interesting, and definitely drop it a like because it helps in the YouTube algorithms. And down below in the comments, drop a message to say you enjoy it, you didn't enjoy it, what your best is, what your favorite game is, what your worst game is. Is there any you think I might have missed out? And with all that done, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Right, so the 10 games we are looking at today are F1 2020, Dirt Rally 2.0, Assetto Corsa, Competizione, Race Room Racing Experience, R-Factor 2, Automobilista 2, iRacing, Assetto Corsa, Project Cars 2, and finally Gran Turismo. So they're kind of the 10 big ones, I would say. Yeah, there might be a couple in there in the fringes, and there's a couple of really old games that outclass these massively in a lot of ways, like Richard Burns Rally and that sort of thing, some of the old Formula 1 games. But these are the ones you could pick up, and they're all relatively newish and can give a good experience. So just remember, before I start ranking these in some sort of order, this is my opinion, and also it's not necessarily the best. It's from a beginner's perspective that if you could go in and pick it up, where would you get your enjoyment? So I'm going to start with number 10. Bearing in mind it's on the criteria from before. I think it's between Project Cars 2 and Automobilista 2 as an overall experience. I'm going to go Automobilista 2. Now, all these 10 games, I think you should have them in your library. If you can get it, get them in that library. They're all great games, but we've got to do some sort of 10 list here. So this uses the same engine as Project Cars 2, which means it's got some great weather effects, lighting effects, day and night cycle, that sort of thing. The weather system is really good. The AI, and it's getting developed. Now, this is probably one of the newest on here, and the AI is getting worked on constantly, but the AI isn't great, and I don't really enjoy racing against them. The cars can be a little bit hit and miss with the ones they're releasing. They tend not to say, right, here's a full series with loads of different cars. It's like, right, we'll give you one car from that race series. So if you want to be in that race series with a lot of other cars, you just have the same car. And to me, the races then lead to a lot of dull experiences. The UI is all right. I don't find it too hard to navigate. It looks very basic, though, when you're in it. So it's another thing that kind of lets it down a little bit. The physics are all right, but it suffers from that terrible handling of Project Cars 2. They always feel like it's cars on ice. You can never really, I don't feel like you can push them as a beginner because I don't know about weight loads and all that sort of stuff. And I just find as soon as I go around a corner, I tend to end up spinning. So that's why Automobilista's down there. It's not a bad game once you get into it, but as a beginner trying to get into sim racing, it's not where I would start at all because of that. So that's our number 10. Number 9, as you think you might have guessed from me talking about there, is going to be Project Cars 2. I love Project Cars 2. I think it's a really good game. It's got a very decent career mode. In fact, I really like the career mode of Project Cars 2 because it starts you right down at the bottom. Like, you move from that carton. You can even start a carton. You kind of got like tiers to go up and around. So from a career perspective and someone who's looking to get into it, it's not bad at all. There's loads of cars and tracks to choose from. The graphics and weather effects are brilliant. Like you can even set it up to change weather as you go. The handling again though is just gonna put a lot of people off. With a controller, them two games, Project Cars 2 and Automobilista 2, are almost impossible. Very, very difficult. Like I used to play Project Cars 2 in VR with a controller and I couldn't even, I hated it. Absolutely hated the game. Once I got a steering wheel, it really opened up. So again, from a beginner's point of view, it's up there. You know, this is a top 10 list. These are 10 really good games. But I don't like the handling model. I don't really like the physics. I'm not a huge fan of the AI in it as well. Right, number 8. R-Factor 2. You're going 8th. Now, R-Factor 2 is kind of the darling of sim races. I know a lot of people kind of started in R-Factor 2, and it's where it's one of the first ones I picked up. That engine is looking pretty old now. It has one of the best physics models in tire modeling. However, R-Factor 2 has the worst UI experience ever. The user experience for R-Factor 2 is terrible. The amount of times I go into it and my steering wheel won't work. It's hard to navigate of what cars, tracks, race series, if you're trying to set it up. It's just like the design, the UI was designed by, I don't know, a blind monkey. It is absolutely terrible. However, to save it a little bit above the other two, once you're in it and if you can look past all them problems, it is actually a very decent racer. The AI is pretty good. It has online ranking system. There's quite a bit of content there. You can put mods with tracks and cars in, but it's that whole UI experience absolutely ruins it for me. And half the time you'll be fighting against that rather than enjoying the game. So yeah, R-Factor 2 is going to stay down. I think I'm happy with them bottom 3. I don't know if Automobilista might go a little bit of... No, I had way more fun than Project Cars 2 than Automobilista. Right. Up next, I think we're going to go for... Next, it's between... I think Race Room is going number 7. I don't know, it's just above iRacing here. So yeah, Race Room. Right, this is a free-to-play, which elevates it a little bit above everything else in some respects, because there's not many free-to-play racing games out there. However, again, like R-Factor 2, it has a terrible user interface. Absolutely awful. And setting it up is just nasty as well. Like, half the time my steering wheel just won't work on it. Like, it doesn't matter how many times I set it up, just will not work. Or I'll get the steering wheel working and then the pedals stop working. It's just not very good. The driving and force feedback is actually all right. It's not too bad. It's an old game now, and because it's free, the graphics are now really showing its age. But it is saved by the fact it has AI, and now it has ranked race servers as well, which really move it above them other 3, because online is now moving up there. Once they get this developed, this could move really far up in most people's view of a good racing game. However, one thing that holds it back massively is the monetization of it all. You have to buy so much DLC to get the stuff you want, and the packs you need and the tracks you want, and that's going to put a lot of people off, I think. But it's not a bad game once you get in it again. Like rFactor 2, it's just ruined by the user interface. Next up, out of these, it's gonna have to be between Dirt and Dirt or iRacing now. It's gonna be iRacing. iRacing is up next in 6. Now, if we're going on the list of the best sims out there, iRacing would really be up there within the top 3. Definitely a top 3. But the problem is, for beginners, it's not the best. iRacing is the ultimate, and for those who don't know, because you're new into sim racing, this is the ultimate online racing game. When you play it, you have to look at your safety ratings, your rankings. You have to think about how you race. You can't just go crashing into other people, otherwise your safety rating will go down. You have to get licenses to go through. The ecosystem built around this game is fantastic. Formula 1 drivers use it. NASCAR drivers use it. It's a massive, massive game. But it's underpinned by 2 massive things that I think as a beginner, you probably want to look elsewhere first, which is the cost. It is £8 a month on average. You can get it on sale sometimes to play it. Now you might be thinking, £8, that's not too bad. Wait. That only gives you access to the most basic cars and tracks. If you're going to continue playing this game and rank up, after a year, you're going to have to spend about $350, like 300 quid. You're going to have to buy tracks. You have to buy tracks and cars separately. You can't just say, right, I want to take part in the Skippy, for example, race series, spend 20 quid and you've got it. Nope. You got to buy the car, which will be like £12. And then you got to buy all the tracks that car takes place on to take part in the race series. And that, as a beginner, it's going to be, I don't know now, should that be lower? No, because once you're in it, the racing is really, really good. And there's no online experience like that around. So if you're competitive in online and you like online, and you've got a bit of money to burn, iRacing is fantastic. Right, 5th. I'm going to put Dirt Rally. Now, Dirt Rally is very specialized in what it does. It's a rally game. There's rallying and rallycross. That's what you have in this. It is the ultimate rally game, though. It is fantastic. The way it handles, the way it looks, the presentation. You know, Codemasters always have that real sort of like knack of getting all this right. It has a career mode. It's a very good rally game. If you want to get into sim racing and you might want to learn how cars handle and really structured, but in a really tight environment where you know you've got to be quick, you've got to be on that brake, you've got to learn about the load of the car, the setup, different tires. And when you do the career mode as well, you can rank up and earn money, and you can go online and do fast lap times against other people. So there's a real good competitive edge. The only problem is, as it's one trick pony, kind of like F1 2020, which we haven't talked about yet. Obviously, that's just F1. This is just for rally. Not necessarily a bad thing if you love rallying, but as a beginner, it's so much fun. And when you get them tracks right, it's fantastic. The UI is really easy to use. You can play it for controller if you want. It's just as playable for controller as it is with anything else. Next, I think we're going to move. It's going to be between F1 2020 and Gran Turismo for 4th place. And I'm going to go Gran Turismo. I know a lot of the PC gamers out there are like, why is Gran Turismo even in this? If you're a console gamer, I didn't say this was just a PC list. This Gran Turismo is the ultimate sim racer on console. It is fantastic. It has one of the best photo modes ever. Like, I've seen pictures of GT Sport and thought they were real. Like, it's fantastic. It is easy to jump in and out of games. The UI is fantastic. It has a really cool feature to learn how the tracks work and layouts and stuff. There's loads of cars and tracks to play with, like loads. Absolutely loads. The thing that brings this down a little bit is the physics are pretty rubbish, and the AI follows kind of like a path, like it always has with Gran Turismo. It just sticks to the racing line. So that's what probably keeps it fourth. But if you're a console, you're not going to get any better in sim racing. And technically, even as a non-console gamer, 50, 60 quid for a PlayStation 4 and you can play Gran Turismo 4. Yeah, F1 2020. Now, if this was a list of the best sims out there, this would be down the bottom. However, from a new player's perspective, I love playing Formula 1 2020. I think it is so easy to use. I can go in that UI. The UI is crisp, it's clean, and sit down on my sim racing rig and control it from my steering wheel. When I'm playing iRacing, for example, I have to get up and move my mouse. I have to have my keyboard beside me. It's a pain in the arse. F1, just control everything from your controller or your steering wheel. You jump in. It's got a great career mode where you can start it down in like F2. And then, yeah, it's a bit rubbish, but you can kind of work your way up. The career mode, you can build your own team or you can jump into a predefined team. You got to look at R&D, develop things for your car. There's great like things in practice where you can learn the tracks and stick to tire wear, and the races themselves are all right. This is where it loses out a little bit because Formula 1 is very tight in its margins. You can spend most of the race like stuck like 3 seconds away from the car in front and 3 seconds away from the car behind you. And it can get a bit boring. You're just kind of driving round and round and round going, well, I wish I had something to fight. So that's the one thing that lets it down, is the racing isn't the best. But again, you can learn racing lines, you can learn apexes, you can learn gearing, you can learn how setup works. And for a newbie, F1 2020, it works perfectly with a controller as well. And it is very well presented. One thing that holds it back massively is the license and constraints on that, because they don't allow the cars to be smashed up and stuff, which is just a huge shame because it just loses that bit of realism. Again, very good game. Now it's between the two Assetto Corsas. And number 2. Now, Assetto Corsa Competizione is the ultimate GT game. It is full of all the GT cars, but that is it. Assetto Corsa can be modded heavily to include everything. It pains me to do it. Assetto Corsa Competizione is going second. Now, the reason I'm going to... I don't know. Yeah. So Assetto Corsa Competizione is my favorite sim racer. I love it. But the problem is, in relation to a newbie, is it doesn't give you much, like, there's not much variation. It is the ultimate in GT racing. You got GT3, GT4, World Series, British GT. It's got the best sounds out of everything on here. It's got great netcode and online racing. The AI is fantastic. Like, the AI is so realistic. It's unreal. It's got a really nice UI with a bit of a career mode. It's not a great career mode, but it's there. And it also has rules and regulations. So if you crash into someone, your safety rating will go down, which again is fantastic. And the tracks are laser scanned and looked great. The only thing that holds this back is what Assetto Corsa can give you, and that is mods. And that's why Assetto Corsa is number 1. Assetto Corsa, you can go racing in Formula 1 cars, vans, buses, Subaru Imprezas, Evos, all BM. There's thousands of cars. If not, well, I'd say if there's not 1,000 cars, I'd be very surprised. Hundreds of tracks, from free roam, like mountains, to test tracks, to drifting tracks, to just everything you can possibly imagine. The graphics, even though it's a bit of an older game, still hold up. It's got great physics and AI as well. The only thing I would say about the physics is the rotation when you go around isn't quite as good as Assetto Corsa. I think Assetto Corsa Competizione has the best physics, but it still holds up. The only thing that holds it back a little bit is the UI is terrible. So there's something called Content Manager, which I highly recommend you download if you're going to pick this up, because it just holds the whole thing together. It makes the UI. There's a really cool photo mode. You can have like doors open, the backgrounds, the lights on. And for $10-15, you can play almost any sport you want, any class of car. You can set your car up to be GT3, GT4. You can have road cars. You can have drift cars. You can have, as I said, just the limits are massive on there. And that's why it's king of all. Even if you had to take your best sim racer, it would be king as well. I think Assetto Corsa Competizione is my favorite, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. It's just my favorite. I love Assetto Corsa Competizione, but Assetto Corsa just takes it for me. It's fantastic. Not quite as good on console because you can't get them mods, but yeah, if you're going to get into sim racing, Assetto Corsa is kind of where it's at. Now, am I happy with that? The only one I'm kind of thinking about is maybe iRacing should drop a little bit just because of the costs. Because the costs are ridiculous. But if you're happy to put with that costs behind that, is a fantastic game. Yeah, that's it. I'm happy with that. So there you go, guys. That is the top 10 according to me. So if you want to agree or disagree in the comments below, feel free. Bear in mind, this is from a beginner's perspective. So if you were going to boot this game up for the first time and play it for the first time, where would you have the best experiences? And I think F1 2020, Assetto Corsa Competizione and Assetto Corsa 3 easily. I mean, there's probably a gulf between the rest. But Automobilista 2, yeah, once you boot it up, but once you get into it with Project Cars, I can't stand the handling model. It's just not good enough. I'm not a huge fan of the AI either. rFactor 2 and Race Room have the two worst UI experiences ever. But then once you see past that, you get into the good racing. iRacing is just, the cost is huge. Dirt Rally 2, it's a bit too one-focused, but there is a lot of DLC, cars, tracks, and the racing and UI all comes together. It's the ultimate rally game. But as I said, focus on just that. Gran Turismo Sport is console only, but it's a fantastic sim racer. And then just these three, just... I know a lot of people probably give like F1 2020 up there, but for me, if you want to try racing and you just want to sit there and have some fun, it's up there. So I hope you kind of enjoyed that video. It's something a little bit different. And I'll catch you all on the next one. Goodbye.